And I haven't looked at the analysis myself, but can you give me a sense for like the effect size here? Is this a very clear big effect, or is this kind of subtle and ambiguous a lot of the time?
So for the playback experiment, it was quite a substantial effect, especially given the small sample size. We only
Mhm.
had 17 individuals.
Mhm.
And we had no idea if all the calls we were playing back contained names. Like it's quite possible that even
Right.
if elephants have names, they don't use them in every call. So there was
Yes.
a lot of noise in this data, and we still got a pretty substantial effect. For the analysis of the proximity scores, I'd say we had maybe a we so we did a couple analyses with that. We certainly had a stronger effect size for the finding that calls from the same caller to the same receiver were more similar than calls from the same caller to different
Yeah.
receivers.
Yeah.
Um, when we also wanted to know if different callers use the same name for the same receiver,
Yeah.
and so we looked
Yes.
at
I was going to ask that.
yeah, okay, so yes, well we can talk about that next.
Okay, so in essence, like one of the tricky things here is it's like you have these you're making these playbacks. You've recorded vocalizations from elephants, and you're playing them back now to see what happens. And um, like if I was trying to get your attention, and a group of us were hanging out, like a group of friends or family or whatever, and I wanted to get your attention, I could say, "Hey, Michael." I could say, "Hey," but like look at you. I could
Yeah,
say, "Hey, Michael," and others. There's many different ways I could partially or completely try and get just your attention or your
right.
attention plus other people's. And so when you have these recordings you're playing back, you guys don't actually know. Are they saying just "Hey, Michael"? Or are they saying something similar, something that includes your name and other names or whatever? And so that's a tricky part of this.
Yeah, exactly. And the challenge is that we wouldn't expect them to use names in every utterance,
Right,
so
right.
we didn't know a priori which
Mm-hmm.
calls might
Mm-hmm.
contain something like a name and which might not.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so again, like for some of the analyses that we did, the effect sizes were quite small. I think the ones where the effect
Yeah,
size were biggest is the two that I've talked about so
yeah,
far, where
yeah,
like the evidence that the calls are specific to individual
yeah,
receivers and that the elephants respond more strongly to
yeah.
calls that were originally addressed to them.